everyone. I hope God's been blessing you today. It's January 23rd, 2013. I'm going to pick up where I left off on my last video. So I've gained a very good friend, that guy that helped me through the divorce, the one that helped me with my self-esteem, my confidence, me being negative about myself all the time. He really helped me through that. And he really loves the boys, and we hang out as much as possible right now. And so again, the year is 1998, and where I'm living, I got to know a few of the neighbors because there was conjoining, well, they weren't really conjoining, but there was a building that I lived, and then there was a building that went like this, and they were owned by the same people. But I think there was like 6 apartments in each building. And so I get to know a few people in the building in front of me. And one of the girls that I had met, she had a little girl, and she was pregnant at the time. And I used to like help her watch her daughter. Sometimes she had to go do an errand or something. And then after she had her son, I would babysit for her so she could go out, and I would watch the kids for her. And so back in the early 90s, when we first moved, so like 90, the end of 90, 91-ish, before I had my first son in 93, I was working 2 jobs when we moved back from Florida to Rhode Island when we were going to help my grandmother. I had 2 jobs. I was working at a supermarket. That's where I met my husband, my ex-husband now, at this time. And I was working at a factory as well where my mom worked. And so the reason I'm mentioning this now is because now in 1998, I haven't worked at that factory with my mom for a couple of years, but I would go there to see her on lunch because the kids were in kindergarten. And it would kind of like, give me something to do. And one day I'm outside with my mom, staying outside, and I think she was smoking at the time. So she was having a cigarette, and I was talking to her, and she was on lunch. And this guy like is on a bicycle and he's riding up to the factory. And my mom knows him because I guess he works there. And so she introduces me to this guy. And funny thing is, the guy goes, "Oh, I think I know you." And I was like, "You know me?" And he's like, "Yeah, do you live at such and such a place?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I know you. I think I've seen you there before." And I was like, "Oh." And so come to find out, he knows where I currently live because of the lady that I was babysitting for. He knew her, and they were friends, and he knew me, but I don't think I like saw him ever. He just saw me, and we never talked then. But so now we get to know each other. Now I think it's funny because he's working with my mom. So we start talking, getting to know each other and everything. And he has a son that is probably a year or 2 younger than my kids, than my youngest one. And so it's really nice. We start hanging out. I'm hanging out with him, my cousin, his son, my kids. We're doing a bunch of stuff, going to the park and everything with the kids, going to Chuck E. Cheese and stuff, just bringing them to do things. And we were all really good friends. And so, things are getting going along well. Like after my divorce, I got, I gained the friend that my ex-husband had. He's now my friend. He could still talk to my ex-husband. I don't even know actually if he was still talking to him, but he was talking to me a lot, my cousin, and now this guy. And we're all like hanging out, doing things. And this is where I really start to notice that God definitely has a plan, and he's working in my life, because while we're getting to know each other, we figure out that in 1990, I went to a concert with the girl who was my maid of honor at my wedding. We went to a concert. I think it was in Providence. And I didn't have a ticket. And this was my very first concert. I think it was a Metallica concert. And the funny thing is, we end up in here, and and I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is awesome. Never been to a concert before." And I only know this band because of my ex-husband, because he really liked this band. And so I said, sure, I'll go, whatever. Well, come to find out, years later, we find out that this guy that, works at the factory that I used to work at with my mom, he he went to that same concert, and we were pretty close to each other in the concert, like in the arena, but we didn't even know each other then. And then the second thing that we found out was like in 95, 96-ish, we both lived in the same apartment. He lived on the third floor and I lived on the first floor, and we had no idea that we were living there, which is funny. And then, of course, now he's working at the same factory with my mom that I used to work at. And so come to find out, all of us know each other in one way or another. So it was like pretty funny to see how we were all intertwined differently in each other's lives, but like collectively, we all kind of knew each other, which is pretty awesome. And then but I'm going to say between 98 and 2002, me, my cousin, and my two friends were like practically inseparable. Like we're always together all the time. As often as we could be together, we're always together. And so these are like great years. We're like doing all this stuff. We're watching the kids. My kids grew up. His son was growing up. We're just doing so much stuff, and it's just like super fun. And I'm in my 20s, so it was fun, though. There was a lot of hard times in those years for my kids, because my ex-husband stopped paying child support, doesn't really like want to see the kids, but then sometimes he wants to see the kids, and then he moved away, and then the kids didn't want to go anymore. And so like it was just that was hard for the kids. But the good thing is, with the two guy friends that I had, they really helped the boys. They tried to like hang around more, do guy things, and stuff like that. So now it's probably like 2002, and my friend that I met when I was with my mom, he wants to move away. And at this moment, he's living with me, but he tells me he wants to move to Maine. And, I'm not gonna lie, I liked him. Like I liked him and I wanted to go out with him, but he always had a girlfriend, and so I didn't really want to ruin the friendship that we had. So I never really told him, which he probably knew that I liked him, but he ended up wanting to move to Maine, and there was a lot of things going on, and I kind of understood why he wanted to move. The thing that was funny though is the girl that I would babysit for, the one that had the daughter and the son when she was pregnant with their son, that's who he moved to Maine with. So that was pretty funny. But it was hard for me. Like he was my best friend, I didn't want him to go. I was very sad. I didn't want to hear that he wanted to leave. You know, and to be perfectly honest, I was very sad for quite a few years, after that, after he left. But I did remain friends with the other guy, that helped me through my divorce. And of course, I was still hanging out with my cousin. But eventually, the friend that helped me with my divorce, he ended up moving to New Hampshire. So pretty much it was just like me and my cousin all the time with the kids. And she had gotten a job babysitting for a lady who had a girl and a boy, and they were close in age with my kids. So then we would just go do things with the kids. But I actually did have a hard time. I had a hard time with my best friend leaving and going to Maine, because I miss talking to him all the time, because we were kind of like always together. We always liked the same things, and we always hung out and everything, and we could talk to each other. So I really, really did miss him. But I was still in contact with his son, because my kids, like I said, they were very close in age. And then of course, you got like school starts and there's field trips and parent teacher meetings and stuff. So I would see him throughout the years. Every time we would go to stuff like that, and I would always say to him, "Oh, have you seen your father? Like, tell him I said hi and everything." But of course, he probably didn't go see him until the summer, so he probably totally forgot to tell his dad. But yeah, so I pretty much lost track of him for a good amount of time. But I would still go visit my friend that moved to New Hampshire. I'd probably visit him a couple times a year. And I would have visited my best friend, but I didn't know where in Maine he was. So during this time that, my best friend's in Maine and everything, and he had left in 2002, and so like I was really starting to overeat. I was using food as a comfort, really, to like comfort me. And every time I was depressed, I would eat. And my grandmother was always asking me to lose weight. She was always telling me she was so worried about me, that I was really heavy, and she was scared I was going to die due to my weight. And I'll add a picture of me and my grandmother at my heaviest in the video so you can see. And then, like I told you guys in the other videos, like me and my grandmother's relationship, like she was it. She's the one that raised me pretty much, and I loved her so much. So because she asked me to try to lose weight, I really tried. I tried my hardest. So for about a year, I was trying really hard to lose weight, and I had lost about 90 pounds. And I'll put a picture here to show you. But um, after I lost that weight, sadly, my grandmother had passed away. So, like in March, I think, of 2003, she passed away. And then I went into a super deep depression, and I stayed by myself for a while. I didn't really want to do anything. So, pretty much all I would do is wake up, get the kids ready for school. They would go on the bus. I would go back in the house and lay down. I didn't talk to anyone on the phone. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to eat. Um, and then I would, the kids would, I knew I was always functioning for the kids. I just didn't function for myself. So the kids would come home, I'd be up and awake and make them supper and help them with their homework and do all the stuff that I should be doing, and then give them a bath, and they would get ready to go to bed. And then I would be depressed again. I'd go back, into the depression, and it was really hard. Because remember, I'm divorced. My best friend moves away. Now my grandmother dies. And yeah, all of it kind of seemed like it happened very quickly. And it was really hard for me to snap out of it, really, to be perfectly honest. It was hard to snap out of. And of course, at the same time, I'm having battles with my ex-husband over visitation, because he's now living in New York, I think, and he wants to take the kids all the way to New York. And I was just like, no. And it was a not a good time in my life, because these were probably the most depressing years of my life, between 98 and like 2000 and the end of 2003. So um during that time, so now it's probably like I had a bunch of surgeries during that time. I had to have eye surgery, I had heel surgery, I had some surgery for my weight. Because I had some heart problems, and I needed to get my weight under control. So by the middle, I would say, of 2004, I was probably the smallest I had ever been. And I'll put a picture here so you can see that. And I was feeling very healthy. I was getting through my depression very well, because I had a therapist now. And I was also I was trying to figure out a way to go to school so I could get a career. Like I didn't want to keep getting jobs. I was like work at Walmart and supermarkets and stuff like that, but I wanted an actual career because the kids were getting older and I really just wanted to support them and support ourselves. I kind of wanted to move and I wanted to do things differently. So I really wanted to push myself to learn something that I could have a career in. So I decided to go to school. It was a trade school for medical billing and coding. And I was like, you know what, I'm pretty sure I can go and learn this. So I started to go to school for that. While I was going to school for that, I started to date a guy that I met through my older cousin. The cousin her sister that I was, always hanging out with, her sister had introduced me to a guy that, I got along really well with him. And I had then graduated the trade school in 2007. I started working in that field. And so between the years of like 2004 to 2009, I was in that serious relationship with that guy that I met. And we lived in Rhode Island. He was living with me, and the boys were now like I think my youngest was just starting high school. Yeah, they were in the younger years, the beginnings of high school and stuff. And then my younger one started to get into a lot of trouble, you know, and and so my boyfriend at the time convinced me we should move out of the city and go to a country area so that way we can help my younger one try to get out of the trouble and stay away from the kids that are like, you know, bad association, I would say. And so we end up moving to a small town actually in Western Mass. And um, at the time, this small town reminded me so much of the town that I lived in Tennessee when my mom moved us down there. And so, of course, I loved it. And my oldest one got used to it pretty quickly. But of course, my youngest one, the reason I moved, he was mad at me and stuff and didn't really like it, which I didn't blame him because it reminded me of when my mom made me and my brother move up and leave from Rhode Island to Tennessee. The only difference is, though, I was moving because I was trying to keep my son safe. And my mom kind of moved us because of her husband. She wasn't doing it for us. She was doing it for her husband. So I felt like there was a difference there. And I was just trying to, just trying to be the best mom I could be. So then things are pretty rocky when we first moved there. Of course, my youngest is mad and going to school, doesn't really want to be in the school. My oldest one's, getting friends and everything. My youngest one's starting trouble and everything and kind of rebelling, which I can't be mad about because I did the same thing when my mom moved me. But you know, they start to eventually get acclimated. It took a couple years. And then we moved a couple times in this small town to different areas. And then me and my boyfriend, we found a house that was like rent to own. And it was it was a cute house and we were happy to get it. And I thought, okay, this is it. We're going to get this house and we're going to get married and everything's going to be fine. Now, mind you, you know, my boyfriend is a hard worker, but he also drinks and everything. But, it didn't seem to be a big issue because he was, worked and everything. And, but things start to go downhill for like me and my boyfriend because now for some odd reason we're in this rent to own. The landlord gives us 6 months to make up our mind. Do we want to buy it or do we want to continue to just rent it? And so, we just moved in. It's been in there probably like 1 or 2 months. We're all settled and things are going okay. And by now I'm working in Boston. So, um, it's a long ride every day for me to get to work and back. But I really like my job, and problem is, I think I don't know what was going on with my boyfriend, but maybe he started adding like different types of liquor to drinking beer, because he started to verbally abuse me when he would be drinking and accuse me of things, and just like always having an argument with me, which of course kind of brought back like the memories of my ex-husband, when my ex-husband used to verbally, and emotionally abuse me. And so I started to get to a point where I didn't want to leave work. I'd go to work. So I'd go to work really early in the morning. Took me like 2 hours to get there. So I'd probably leave the house at like 4 a.m., get to work, and then I would be coming home at like 2:30. I would have got home for like 4:30. But because we were constantly arguing now, I would take extra hours and I would work later and I would get home really late. And I didn't feel bad because the kids, they were in high school and they had friends now, and they were constantly with their friends. And so it's not like I was leaving them at the house with him. He would be home by himself. And then by the time I would get there, he would be passed out from drinking. And then I wouldn't have to like worry about any confrontation, because I don't. And it's probably because of like my childhood growing up and everything, and my ex, I didn't really like confrontation. I don't like yelling and drama, and I just I'm gonna listen to you yelling at me. I don't want to yell back, but then I would yell back and then I would feel terrible. So I just would rather stay at work. And so that's what was happening. I started to stay at work longer and longer hours. And, you know, I just I got to the point where I just didn't want to come home and then I was like, okay, I don't want to live this way because I've already gone through this crap and I'm not going to do it again. And now the kids are old enough. And so I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And so I started to, my landlord that owned this house, they lived next door, and they were so sweet. They were the sweet little couple. And, they would always ask me, like, how are you and the boys doing? And I'd be like, oh, we're doing great. And they'd bring us like little meals over and we'd get stuff for them. And they were just like super nice. But I started to talk to them about, because they would always ask me like how is everything, because they would hear like when I was home, they would hear him yelling at me. He'd be outside, he'd start yelling at me and stuff, and they were right next door. It's not like they weren't hearing it. So, and he would be really loud in the house when he would be yelling at me and stuff when he was drunk. And so I would started talking to them, and I started to tell them, hey, listen, I'm probably not going to buy this house with him. I don't want to deal with the abuse. I think I'm going to figure out how to get out of here. And at the time, my boyfriend his parents lived, closer to Rhode Island. And so he would go and see them sometimes and help them. They were older, so he would go and help them with their yard or something that they needed. Maybe the car needed to be fixed or whatever. So sometimes he'd go there on the weekends. And so I, when he would go, I would go around and I would try and find an apartment. And I finally found an apartment a couple towns away from where we were living. And I told my landlord, I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to get out. Like, he can stay here. I'm not staying here. I have to get out of this lease. I'm going, the next time he leaves to go to his parents' house, I'm going to move, me and the kids. And I'm not saying where we're going. And I don't want you to tell him and all this stuff. And these people were so nice. Like, this is what I mean about like people helping each other. These people really could see that it was bad, so they let me out of the lease. They kept the lease with him so he wouldn't get kicked out. And that was it. The next time he went to his parents' house, me and the kids had packed everything up and we left. And we moved into the other apartment that we had, and that was it. That was probably like 2011 when we moved, and we never looked back. Me and the kids never looked back. We got this new apartment, and that was it. We're gonna be on our way and start a whole nother chapter of our lives, in this new town. And so um I'm gonna stop here, and on my next video I'll be getting into like closer to where my life is today, so, and how it's changed and everything. So um I'm all very grateful to everyone that has been watching my videos, and I appreciate all of you, and I love everyone, and I'm very happy that I'm just happy because my life, and you'll start to see in the next couple of videos, it's so different now. So different now. And I can't wait to share the next couple, because now it's like pretty much all the bad stuff has gone. I mean, there's still a little bit of stuff, but it's not that bad, and so you'll see. And so I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video.